You ever live with someone and barely know them? That's how it started for me. I'd just moved into this cheap apartment near campus, and I found a roommate, Nick, through an ad online. He was quiet, almost too quiet, the kind of guy who made you feel like you were living alone, which honestly was fine by me. At first, we had this unspoken routine. He stayed in his room most of the time, and I stayed in mine. Sometimes I'd hear him walking around at night or muttering to himself, but I just figured he was a bit of a loner. One thing that stood out, though, he never ate. I'd leave food in the fridge, but it was always untouched. I assumed he must have been eating out, but there were no takeout containers, no smells of cooked meals. Then, one night, I got home late from work. The apartment was pitch dark, except for a faint light coming from under Nick's door. I heard this weird scratching noise, like nails dragging across the floor. "Hey, Nick, you okay?" I called out. The scratching stopped immediately. Then I heard this low, muffled voice say something I couldn't quite make out. It sounded like, "Not yet." I just froze. I didn't know what to say, so I backed off and went to my room. That night, I didn't sleep. Over the next few days, things got worse. Every night, I'd hear noises, scratching, shuffling, sometimes even whispers. But when I'd knock on his door, he wouldn't answer. Then, one night, I woke up to a sound that made my skin crawl. Breathing. It wasn't mine. It was coming from the corner of my room. I turned on the light, heart pounding, but there was nothing there. The door to my room was locked, so there was no way Nick or anyone could have gotten in. The next day, I was done. I decided to confront him. I knocked on his door, but there was no answer. Finally, I pushed it open, and that's when I realized something was horribly wrong. The room was completely empty. No bed, no furniture, no clothes. Just bare walls and a dirty, scratched-up floor. It didn't make sense. He had been living there. I'd seen him. I'd heard him. But then I noticed something in the middle of the room, an old, leather-bound journal. I picked it up and started flipping through it. The handwriting was jagged, frantic, like whoever wrote it was in a panic. Most of it was nonsense. Phrases like hide in the walls and stay unseen. But one page stood out. He's noticing me now. I'll have to leave soon, but not before I finish. That night I heard scratching again, but this time it wasn't coming from Nick's room. It was coming from inside the walls. I haven't seen Nick since, but some nights I swear I hear him breathing just on the other side of the drywall. Growing up, there was this house at the end of Ash Street that everyone said was haunted. It was one of those classic don't go there places. Overgrown yard, boarded up windows, and this eerie, abandoned vibe that gave you chills just walking past it. The story was that anyone who knocked on the door 3 times would get a knockback. It was just a dumb urban legend, or so I thought. One summer night, my friends dared me to try it. I was 12, and I didn't want to seem like a coward, so I agreed. We walked up to the house, the porch creaking under our weight, and I knocked. 3 slow knocks. For a moment, nothing happened. I was about to laugh it off when I heard it. 3 knocks from the other side of the door. We all screamed and ran, but something about it stuck with me. I couldn't stop thinking about it, like the house had left a mark on me. That night, I woke up at exactly 3 a.m. to the sound of knocking on my bedroom door. 3 knocks just like before. I froze. My parents were asleep down the hall, and we didn't have any pets. I told myself it was my imagination, but the knocking happened again the next night, and the night after that. By the fifth night, I couldn't take it anymore. I stayed awake, flashlight in hand, and waited. Right on time, the knocking started. This time, I swung the door open, but there was nothing there, at least not at first. When I turned back toward my bed, I saw him, a figure standing in the corner of my room, barely visible in the darkness. He was tall, with long, spindly limbs, and his face, it was like a smudged photograph, blurry and distorted. He didn't move. He just stood there, watching me. I blacked out. When I woke up, it was morning, and he was gone. The knocking stopped after that, but every time I walk past that house on Ash Street, I feel like someone's watching me from the windows. I never believed in urban legends, but boredom makes you do stupid things. My friend Sarah had been obsessed with this thing called the elevator game, a ritual that supposedly takes you to another dimension. The rules were simple. Ride an elevator alone, press a specific sequence of buttons, and on the 5th floor, a woman is supposed to enter. The one rule: don't look at her and don't speak to her. We found an old office building downtown, one of those places that's barely used. Sarah stayed outside while I went in alone. At first, nothing happened. I followed the sequence, pressing the buttons exactly as the instructions said. The elevator moved smoothly, floor by floor. Then, I hit the 5th floor. The doors opened, and she stepped in. She looked normal at first, just a woman in a gray dress. But as the elevator doors closed, I realized something was wrong. Her skin was too pale, almost gray, and her smile was too wide, like it had been stretched. I kept my eyes on the floor, heart pounding. "Are you going up?" she asked. Her voice was soft, almost sweet, but there was something off about it, like two voices speaking at once. I didn't answer. I didn't dare. The elevator started moving again, but instead of stopping, it sped up. The lights flickered, and the air felt heavy, like it was pressing down on me. When the doors finally opened, the hallway outside wasn't right. It was dark, lit only by a faint red glow, and the walls looked wrong, like they were breathing. "Don't go," she whispered. I slammed the closed door button over and over until the elevator finally started moving again. This time, it brought me back to the lobby. When I stepped out, Sarah was furious. "What took you so long? You were in there for over an hour." I didn't argue, but when I got home, I noticed something strange. My reflection in the mirror. It was smiling, even though I wasn't.